Wonderful. Thank you so much, JLF, for this amazing opportunity to talk to Pavan on the launch of his 26th book. That is an amazing feat by itself. A big round of applause, please. Sorry? Come a little forward. Oh, no, I don't think we can change our position because it's done according to the cameras. So I think this is one of the most intriguing books that I have read of yours, Pavan. Starting with the title itself, The Lady Who Carried the Monk Across the River. I could not wait to read it. Do you want to start by just telling us why you chose this title? Let's plunge straight into the river. Yeah.
Because she does. Never underestimate a woman. She is capable of changing ordinary men, including those who wish to become a monk. But it's a love story. But woven into that love story is also a philosophy. It's a very fast read. This is a thin volume. It's also very cheaply priced, so you can read it on a flight. But I guarantee you that you will think about it for some time after reading it. Because essentially, the lady is symbolic of something. The monk is symbolic of something. His guru has a past. The other celibate monk, Gyan has his own path. And here lives intertwine even as a 5-day shastrarth or debate goes on between the Guru and Kevala on whether what he had done was right or wrong. It's a shastrarth, it's a debate, it's in the Indian tradition. And as the 5-day shastrarth unfolds, everybody's life is turned topsy-turvy. And one of the central characters in this is the lady, who is the cause of it, and in fact is symbolic of much more than that. Essentially, the book Kishwar is about the validity of going beyond desire and the validity of desire itself. And how can we harmonize the two, and does the Hindu worldview allow for it? Which in my view it does. So, therefore the lady who carried the monk.
Well, I think that's a very, very good point to start, because for me the book was equally intriguing because it talks about the whole philosophy of moksha. You know, how does one achieve that? There are, as we were discussing earlier, 4 parts to it, or 3 parts to it. You can tell us all about that, Pavan. But I think in this particular instance, why it becomes even more interesting in the world we live in today. So what is an ascetic? Is an ascetic necessarily somebody who will reach that spiritual goal faster than all of us because we succumb to desire? Or is it that desire has to be negated? Now, these are the very important philosophic points, as you said, from the Hinduism point of view, and from your own unique perspective and your own unique understanding of our ways, Pavan. What is it that you have come to that made you write this book? And why did you want to, this popular notion in most religions is that if you want to take this spiritual path, you have to, as I said, leave desire behind. But you actually advocate desire. Tell us about it.
I'm not advocating desire. I am saying it has validity. And I am not denying the need, if you wish to go beyond desire, because that also has validity. You see, in the Hindu worldview, and I'm speaking of Hinduism because it's about Hindu monk and it is set in a certain setting. In the Hindu worldview, it is the most balanced view you can imagine. The 4 highest purusharths of Hinduism are dharma, artha, kama, moksha. There are few religions which would give as the highest goals of life validity to the pursuit of desire, as much as it also accepts that you can strive to go beyond desire. But there is no guilt associated with desire, with the sensual, with the physical, because it's part of that same balanced life. In fact, in the first chapter of Vatsyayan's Kama Sutra, as I was mentioning yesterday in a session, Vatsyayan is asked, why do we need this book? And there were 18 before Vatsyayan's book. Because just like you have Kautilya's Artha Shastra, Dharma, Artha, you have Kama. And in the book on Kama, what he's stressing upon is that Vatsyayan's answer is, why do you need the book? He says, if you pursue the first three goals, Dharma, Artha, Kam, in proportion but not in exclusion, you automatically reach the fourth, which is moksha, as part of a balanced life. Now, isse zyada pragmatic, you can't find a more pragmatic religion. It's more pragmatic than Confucius. But we are often caught in the tension of associating guilt with desire, of considering it somewhat wrong. It could be wrong if pursued disproportionately. And somehow we put on a pedestal those who transcend desire, but do they actually transcend it? By wo, desire also is a gift, if you believe, of that same divine power which has given you the ability to go beyond desire. It's a gift. The sensual can also be a window to the divine, just like going beyond sensuality can be a window to the divine. When you are in deep meditation, you are probably, from the sheer bliss you feel, as close as possible to moksha, even if it is fleeting. And sometimes, when you have the most beautiful experience with desire, you are also probably opening a window to the divine, because both are gifts of that same higher power. How do you synthesize the two in your life? That's why I call it a parable for everybody. In our life, we face these issues. And here is a celibate monk. And the Zen parable, Kishwar, is that two monks, one of them picks up a woman, picks her up and helps her to cross a river. And the celibate monk keeps telling him, why did you do this? You are celibate, you are not supposed to get in physical contact with a woman, you couldn't resist the desire. And he says to him, finally, कि भाई मैंने तो उठाया था, I picked her up. You are still carrying her. I picked her up and put her down. But in this book, set in an Indian setting, he put her down, but he couldn't put her down. He's still carrying her somewhere. And this creates tension within him, because his genuine choice is to be a celibate monk. He finds solace, he finds peace, he finds equilibrium in being above the world, of being at peace with himself, of grappling with spirituality rather than entangling himself with sensuality. And yet, the desire, the power of desire is so great that somewhere he finds that even though he is trying to, he can't get rid of that one fleeting physical contact. And from there flows a love story. But the whole idea is to show that neither one is right nor the other is wrong, and both are part of one balanced life.
I think this comes through very beautifully, Pavan, because you have set that book in a small, you can say, ashram type of place where the guru is present, Brihaspati, who is the guru of Keval, who has this experience of having tried to help this woman across the river and then cannot get her out of his own mind. And there, from there leads a debate. And if I'm not giving away too much of the book, this is a very interesting debate in which both the guru and the shishya are trying to grapple with this problem that is desire, as the guru says, which leads to delusion and therefore pain, not worth it in this lifetime and cannot ultimately lead to moksha. But then, like you said, this is a parable. This is also applicable to all our lives. At the heart of it, it is also a love story. But Pavan, this book has many aspects to it. It is not, it's a very slim book, as you can see, but it deals with extremely deep matters. Can you just explain to us the whole section you have on karma and the importance, because that is really where desire flows from. And what I was fascinated by when I read the book was that how important the god karma was considered to be. Can you just explain that? Because that is wonderful.
There's no section on karma.
Okay, but there is.
We don't need a section.
Okay, but it's part of the book.
It's inherent within us.
Okay.
It's the same gift. But there is a story in our mythology that Shiva is in deep meditation. And the gods want to break his meditation because he is required to perform actions against evil. And so they ask Kama to go and disturb his meditation. And I cannot tell you the power of Kama. I mean, Tulsidas in his Ramcharitmanas describes that journey as Kama is going towards Shiva, very much like Eros, to, use a bow and arrow to break his meditation. And Tulsidas says that his attraction was so great that the trees bent towards him, the rivers rose towards him, birds and animals came towards him, even saints meditating in caves were attracted by him. And then when he breaks Shiva's meditation, in anger Shiva burns him to ashes. And having got up from his meditation, he asks Parvati, ask for a boon. I am now awoken from my meditation. And Parvati says, after you have destroyed karma, what else is there left to ask for? Once you've destroyed karma, there is nothing that more that I would want and you can give me. And so he's compelled to revive Kama on her request. And even though he doesn't have a physical body, there are many mythologies around it, he is alive as that great force which is so much a part of our lives. We have both to control it and to accept it. And to accept it without guilt and to control it without orthodoxy. By orthodoxy I mean by attaching sin, which doesn't exist, the word doesn't exist in Hinduism, towards it. So that is the power of karma. But here is a genuine monk, Keval, who wants to transcend it but is unable to, and there is another monk who doesn't believe in it, who doesn't believe in celibacy, and yet he too, in his pursuit of desire, reaches a point where he feels that he has opened a window to the divine. Now, this appears complex to you, but it's not, because we live our lives like this. There is place for that spiritual urge, There is space for desire. There is space for material well-being. That is why we have the four Purushas, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. But this is theory. How does it actually work in life? You and I. How honest are we with ourselves? How do we deal with a relationship? What is our view about desire? What do we think to be morally right and morally wrong? These are questions we have to ask ourselves in everyday life, in any situation. It could be at the level of action or it could be at the level of thought. Even the Guru has a past. Even there is a reason why he chose to become a celibate monk. Has he transcended desire? And is desire a good goal unto itself, or are both valid? Desire and the transcendence of desire. These are questions. These are questions which is part of any normal life, whether we rationalize it or not. But here it is said through a very easily readable, accessible story in a slim novel, which has two parallel parts. One is the debate between the Guru and his student. And that debate is in the best traditions of Indian civilization. Adi Shankaracharya and Mandan Mishra had a debate on what is better, Gyan Marg or Karm Kand. And here are two disciples, Guru and disciple, debating the issue, not as a contest. Keval says, I would like to clarify my own mind. I think we are revealing too much of the book, but it's a debate. And the debate is for 5 days. Guru says 5 sessions, 5 days. And the way the tenor of the conversation changes over 5 days and the way the story unfolds in parallel in 5 days. And the great role of Mandakini. Shakti.
Well, I think, yes, Shakti. But before we come to Shakti, I do want to talk about the importance of this book in today's day and age. Because all of us are going through this FOMO business, fear of missing out. What is everybody else doing? How can we get X, Y, Z? The most crucial parts that most of us face in this journey of life is to transcend all the things that we need today, because there's an explosion of things that we seem to require in order to simply exist. Thanks to social media, thanks to everything we see around us, our desires seem to grow and grow. And therefore, in recent years, we've had books like The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari or Gave Away His Ferrari or whatever. Or everybody sort of runs away from the real world to find his or her true self. So, this is what the world we are living in. You have brought in another aspect to this debate. I know it's an ongoing debate through the centuries, that which is the way to moksha. But I think in today's world, to have a love story like this, to remind us of how simple or how complex our lives can be, if we can actually have everything that we need or desire, or at least find our way through love, through passion, through desire to moksha. That is a different path to what we are all looking at today in terms of what could lead to our salvation or what could lead to moksha. It's an ongoing debate, Pavan, but I think it's a very different point of view. Would you agree or no?
No, excess of anything is wrong. So if we are living in a consumerist society where we want more and more and more, ultimately, having got even half of it, we will sometime, somewhere ask the question, is it worth it? ये सवाल तो उठता है ना. But from there arises the question, was it worth it? Do we say no to everything? So I'm reminded of a simple couplet by Zauck. बेहतर तो है यही कि न दुनिया से दिल लगे. For those of you who understand, otherwise I'll explain. बेहतर तो है यही कि न दुनिया से दिल लगे, पर क्या करें जो काम न बेदिल लगी चले. तो somewhere,
Very good.
yes, how to find that equilibrium which trods a path between unenlightened pursuit of the non-spiritual and the exclusive pursuit of the spiritual. By between the two कोई middle path तो होगी ना. It's a very balanced religion. Our lives are supposed to, and I think somewhere in the Hindu faith, except for those who are at the extreme fringe, who say from the beginning कि we are out of this normal world. And that's a valid path also. But for those who are in this world, where do you find that middle path? If you can say, ऐज़ो के तलब कश्मकशे दिल से गुजर जा, मंजिल भी अगर आए तो मंजिल से गुजर जा.
क्या बात है. वाह.
If you can say that, nothing like it, but if you can say that after you've gone through life, after you've experienced dharma, arth, kam, and say, been there, done that, now I know what to do. Rather than say, not been there, not done that, but this is the only thing I'll do. Hindu worldview does not encourage you to say, मैंने तो सोच लिया यही सही है, this is what I'll do. भाई जब आपने इस the great infinite bouquet of joys of this life, which is a gift to you, most of us ill-treat it, take it for granted, and before we know it, our life is over. This great gift, can we enjoy it in proportion, with balance, but without any sense of guilt? Can we find our quiet moments of meditation and yet be joyful about the moments which are outside that quiet meditation? Everything is a gift. Your sensory feelings are a gift. When you wake up and see the sun, it's a gift. Desire is a gift. Meditation is a gift. You have to experience life. It's not one extreme or the other. And that is what the book is trying to navigate.
Right. The river of life. It's trying to navigate the river of life. And that brings us to another very important part of the book, is Shakti, the role of women in this. And Pavan, you have given some very, very powerful moments to Mandakini. You have created a character that a woman who manages to leave whatever, a very ordinary life, what she leads, and aspires to a life with a monk, who helps her cross the river and who does not forget about her. Now, that is a very extraordinary thing to do, for any woman, if we take the book literally. But you've also explored the whole aspect of Shakti, and I would love you to read some passages from the book where you talk about the power of women, and you also help us understand the role that the woman plays in your novel.
I'll not read because I want the audience to read. But you see, whichever way we treat women in our society, they're certainly stronger than men. अरे जो women है clap तो कर दीजिए. Stronger than men. And if they decide that this is what they want, monk तो कुछ भी चीज नहीं है.
Right.
And so the role of Mandakini is of a lady. She's not obsessed with desire. She's intrigued by a monk who's a celibate monk who helped her cross the river. But there are things she likes about him when they meet subsequently, which is a matter of chance and happenstance. And she's very clear about the things she doesn't like in men as well. She has other admirers too. And her clarity and her resolve represents that power which in our worldview we call Shakti. Purush Prakriti in the Samkhya philosophy. Every god, at the Sagun level in Hinduism, will have a consort. Shiva, Parvati, Lakshmi, Saraswati, and so on. That power, if given full play, in my view, is more powerful than men. Men may think that they are the deciders of their destiny. Somewhere women often have a more powerful role to play in it. But I don't want to make a dogma of this. I'm not saying it's a dogma. I'm saying the way the love story unfolds, her role becomes emphatic. Imagine a situation where a monk helps a woman to cross a river. There is the first physical contact. And from there, a story emerges where the woman is not a passive participant, but an equal participant. It's not as if one monk decides, I'll not be celibate, I will marry this woman or I will fall in love with her, and she's just a passive accessory to what he wants. She knows what she wants. And very often men don't understand that women know what they want. It's unfortunate that they can't fulfill it half the time. So, if you look at the book, it's a slim volume. But there are many stories and sub-stories and messages within it. And one of them is the power of women.
Right. I think you also bring that out quite beautifully with the other monk. Now, we're not talking about Keval. We're talking about Gyan, his contemporary in the same space. But he's the man who he's the monk who decides that he's not going to be hypocritical about this. He has desires. He goes out and seeks them, as it were. And then one night, he actually explores.
You're giving too much of the story.
Okay. But can we just talk as a parable? Because we do want everyone to understand that when a man understands what a woman desires, perhaps, then the narrative of his own life can change.
You see, just like we should not treat spirituality, which is a serious pursuit, casually, we should not devalue the bliss of sensuality. I don't know how Vatsyayan reached this precise arithmetic proportion that a woman's libido is 18 times that of a man. Kitna field experience chahiye hoga to come to such a precise figure. But anyway, if it's true, and it perhaps in some ways it is, then you can't disrespect sensuality. I'm not going to speak more because people should read the book. And why do you think we have the book Kama Sutra? Nobody understands. People only see the illustrations. I wrote a text to a book on the Kama Sutra. It's my least read text because people only see the illustrations. But behind that book, there is a philosophy. And it must be for the first book ever written in mankind, devoted far more to the pleasures of a woman than a man. And that book, the first few chapters are not about the impossible postures. It's about developing the mood, the conversation, the music, of taking sensuality beyond merely physical friction. A woman's, in my understanding, where my experience is very limited, except I'm a married man, and that in itself is a big experience. But a woman's requires more than merely what is nowadays called a quickie. It's more. It's a conversation. It's a dialogue. It's respect. Key word is respect. It's a friendship. And the first few chapters of the Kama Sutra are entirely on how to build that mood. Games, incense, music, conversation. And when you invest it in that, in sensuality in that way, its rewards can be far greater than you can ever imagine. It can also, in that one orgasmic moment, be a window to the divine. In our faith, or in any faith, there is no one fixed path to the divine. There are so many possibilities. Because they all ultimately come from that same source if you believe in a higher power. So how can you treat it casually? Yes, sometimes you can and you will. But when you have that experience, then it becomes as spiritual as anything else. And that is why I say that you have to understand. People don't understand today why which dharma, artha, kama, moksha. And why, therefore, a book like Kama Sutra? I mean, I have seen copies of the Kama Sutra selling in their thousands and millions because it is titillating. It is titillating. People want to know. Not that they can replicate the postures. Impossible. But they don't understand the philosophy.
Moksha. We've been mentioning this word a lot because your book is about that. How do we reach that point? How would you describe moksha, Pavan? I mean, you've done a lot of study, a lot of research. I'm sure you've been through many experiences. But as an author, talking to a very engaged audience right now, how would you describe moksha?
You see, in the Advait school, I've written a book on Adi Shankaracharya. It's Chidanand. Chid, Anand, bliss and awareness. And it's not about moksha after you die. It's about moksha in this life. It is your birthright. Unless you achieve it in this life, who has seen the next one? आपने देखी हो तो बताइए मुझे. So therefore, if in this life you can aspire after having been there, done that, and during it, that equilibrium of mind, wo tathasthata, where for some time you experience that undescribable bliss of complete silence, of complete absence of thought, of being suffused with joy, of being just above the world, complete in every way, beyond that equilibrium is Chidanand. Saints experience it in this life. You and I are saints who refuse to ever accept that it's possible in this life. So you work till the end कि अब मरने के बाद मोक्ष मिले या ना मिले, भैया नहीं मिलेगा इस life में. You have to aspire for it in this life. But there are no shortcuts. If you think that you can retire to a cave and just being alone, you'll experience it. Or just by memorizing by heart the Shastras, you'll experience it. Some people perhaps do, but it's usually very difficult. Moksha will come to you round the corner suddenly, as part of life. Shankaracharya says, Balyam, have a childlike mentality. Keep your antenna. Be porous. Take it as grace, and it will come to you when you are ready. To be ready, you don't have to take sannyas from this world. Revel in it with responsibility. Enjoy each moment and the joys within that moment. Navigate your life and be in balyam, childhood humility. And it will come to you. That is moksha.
Wonderful. I think this is what this book is really at the heart of this book, is how to reach that moment. And it's very interesting that you should bring up the book that you wrote on Adi Shankaracharya, because part of this, I hope I'm not giving away too much again, in this book is the debate that takes place, which you have also based on a similar debate, which took place hundreds of years ago between Adi Shankaracharya and Mardana. So is this something that you would say was inspirational for you when you wrote this book?
Yeah, without doubt, because Sabya Samvad, civilized discourse, is the manner in which the Hindu foundational evolution has taken place. I said this in a session yesterday. It is not by going to the other person and saying that if you don't agree with me, I will shoot you. It's either my way or the highway. This is not how it happens. That is why we have not one but 6 systems of Hindu philosophy. That is why when the Charvaks say that the Vedas are a bunch of lies, they are also a part of Hinduism. That is why the Bhagavad Gita and the Upanishad are dialogic. That is why the Brahma Sutra will in its commentaries always admits the opponent's point of view. And that is why Adi Shankaracharya and Mandan Mishra had a milestone, landmark debate with each other on which is a superior path to reach moksha, Gyan Marg or Karm Kand. And they had a debate in a time when there was no social media, there was no television, there was no internet, but that debate became a turning point in the evolution of Hinduism. So that is why I choose that, because it's very important for our times to once again reinstate the importance of our own tradition in Sabya Samvad, civilized discourse. We have lost it. Where is the space for it? And so there is a guru who frowns on what one of his favorite disciples does. And instead of purely chastising him, he says, and the student is prepared, let's have a debate. Defend yourself. And we shall see. And for the student, it's a way of clarifying his mind. That's what debates do, where you accept what the other person is saying, if it's valid, and you should also have the bigness of heart and mind to accept what the other person is saying, if it's right. ये तो हमारी भाई ये if this was not there, Hindu faith would not be where it is. Even if there are challenges to the civilized discourse tradition today, we have to again remind ourselves it's important. It's been a part of our journey. So that is why I choose that format. Ek taraf, the story is unfolding. Each caught in their own dilemma between right, wrong choices, paths chosen, and here is a debate going on in parallel between Guru and Shishya. 5 days, 5 sessions. The Guru decides 5 days, 5 sessions. And that debate you may find of interest.
I think it's fascinating. I'd like to open up. We have time for about 3 questions from the audience. If we could just, take that gentleman there in... but please don't give us lectures. Just stick to the question if you have something to ask.
2 questions only. I'm taking 2 questions simultaneously. One is, where do you find Mandakini in the motivation of Mandakini from that Maslow's needs of the hierarchy of needs, from basic need, physiological need, to safety needs, to love and belongingness, to achievement, to self-actualization. And second is, and you have all freedom not to answer the second question, sir, that have you got your moksha, and if yes, how, when, and where?
Should we answer that? Would you like to answer?
Very quickly. You see, fortunately, because your question is very intelligent, Mandakini did not theorize so much where her desire was coming from in terms of, what did you say the hierarchy is. I mean, I think when I fell in love, I did not see it in any hierarchy. It had a priority for me. Of course, all desires perhaps have a hierarchy, at least I am not aware of it. But there could be, by basic priorities, if you are dying of starvation, you want to eat, that's a desire. But I'm saying, given that, taken that for granted, she felt an attraction, control, but in control herself, both about what she thinks she wants, about whether she deserves it, and how to pursue it. That is where Shakti comes in. As far as my own moksha, I'm still a seeker.
Okay, that lady there, just, yes, please. Wait for the mic.
In your opinion, could moksha be defined as freedom from desires? Freedom not in the sense of negating, freedom not in the sense of relegating desire to the, but not bound, not enslaved by desires. And in that sense, transcending desire.
Without a doubt. जिसको कुछ भी नहीं चाहिए, if you reach that stage where, it's the famous story, Alexander wins in those times what he considered half the known world, comes back to his guru Aristotle and says, Master, ask, unto you half my kingdom. And Aristotle is lying in a tub in the winter sun, tub of hot water. And he says, Alexander, tu tora side pe ho ja, you are blocking the sun. That's all he wants. If you don't want anything, and you have achieved it all, we are ultimately limited by the ability for us to see beyond. खुले सहरा में थी मेरी असीरी दीद के काबिल. In the open horizon, with all possibilities, all potential, my imprisonment was worth watching. खुले सहरा में थी मेरी असीरी दीद के काबिल, मेरी हद्दे निगाह का 400 दीवार हो जाना. My ability to see beyond this point became the four walls around me. If you've crossed that point,
Okay,
you-
one last question. I know we're fully out of time, but we can quickly try and take one last question. Yeah. That gentleman here in front here.
Sir, as you discussed about the dharma, arth, kam and moksha, so as a solution for getting all of these, how you think or what is your point of view for the relevance of ashram system that is very popular in the ancient time? Please, sir.
नहीं जरूर, because again it's part of the pragmatism of the Hindu worldview. It broadly divides, and it's not necessarily valid in terms of actual categorization of periods, because longevity has gone up, our abilities have gone up, potentials have gone up. But broadly it says grihast, brahmacharya, grihast, vanprasth, sannyas. What it is saying is broadly, without it being a fiat or a diktat or a prescriptive command. We have no 10 commandments. See life as a beautiful arc. Or the truth is that sometimes you may find that in vanprasth you are enjoying life far more than in the agitations of youth. ये भी possible है. But again, accept the fact that if you are born, there are only two things certain for this absolutely transient life we have: birth and death. The whole story is about how you navigate the journey between the two. And as you move towards the end, there are these 4 stages of acceptance. I think it's a great worldview to have.
Great. That's a wonderful note, and please do get copies of your book signed by Pavan, and many of the answers are in it. So thank you so much, Pavan, for that absolutely
Thank you, Kishwar.
amazing,
Thank you. Such a
amazing discussion.
pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you.